Hello, and welcome to the Roughneck Minute, a Movies by Minute podcast where we go over the movie Starship Troopers 1 minute at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Matthew.
And I'm your other host, Johann.
And we are at minute 108. This minute begins with the retro rockets finally firing and ends with an extremely hostile situation. And then as you can probably hear, the spring is finally here and I'm a little bit stuffed up.
Yeah, I'm a little bit too.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? I mean, what was it? The other day I was outside constantly just sneezing every 10 minutes. It was fun.
Yeah, but that's what happens with the weather.
Yeah. You know what? It never used to happen before, though. Like, I want to say maybe about 5-10 years ago, nothing like this would happen. I'll just be perfectly fine. And then as soon as I hit, late 20s, early 30s, bam.
Yeah, but I also think compared to the last couple of years, there's been a lot more rain. So there's definitely more, flowers, like wildflowers, and so hence pollen, etc.
Yeah, man, that super bloom, what was it last year, just completely ravaged it.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the minute. This minute begins with the retro rockets finally firing and the escape pod literally bouncing off of mountains.
Yeah, well, I guess if the plates of it are strong enough to withstand heat, should it be able to take that sort of impact and just glance off a mountain?
So that's kind of a thing. No, actually, because the heat shield for like the Apollo missions and the shuttle, in fact, the shuttle plates are extremely brittle, which was what caused the Columbia disaster.
Oh, okay.
So a piece of foam from the external tank on Columbia came off, struck the side of the heat shield on the wing, and that completely. It's basically like a foamish. Heat-resistant foam, almost. So it's super, super, super brittle. Like you can literally crumble it in your hands, but it is super strong against heat.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure on how all that worked. That's why you're here.
Yeah, but I mean, like, again, this isn't current tech or anything. This is future tech. So I'm pretty sure, especially because these escape pods are probably meant to be going through debris maybe or withstand a lot of other stuff besides just re-entry, it probably has some kind of resistance against bouncing off. And also it looked like a glancing bounce as well too. It wasn't like they came down straight down at a 45-degree angle and just smacked into it.
Yeah, but I was just wondering, like, since it kind of made impact on the nose, that it would tumble more than just glance. That's what I mean.
It should have, yeah. I mean, as we saw in the last couple minutes with the Corvette drifting and everything, physics don't really apply to this movie.
Guess. Yeah, because that was just my thing about the impact that actually happened was it came upon the nose, but it's like it ramped up a bit and then it corrected itself mid-air and then came back down on the nose. But I was just wondering if it hit on the nose, that the rockets from the back should have kept kind of going, they would have flipped it over. But I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have made a good entry into the what's it called? I honestly don't want to call it a mountain. I have another theory. I think it's kind of like a termite hill.
Yeah. Okay.
That these aren't mountains. That like it may have just been all flatland at one point, and then
they're mounds now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I like that actually.
So that's my theory on it.
Well, the one thing I don't like, I mean, I'm okay with it glancing off the top of the first, mound kind of thing. What I don't like is it when it like just dives straight into the wall and then goes into a hole.
Yeah. See, that's my thing. If it was a mountain and it got hollowed out, eventually the support isn't going to hold itself because it wasn't made to basically, it's not like the strongest point is going to be the outside. It's going to be the center of a mountain because that's where the most amount of pressure is. But if you make it like a termite hill where you start building the walls up and up, then you can have that strong structure on the outside because they mix it with like some sort of like excretion, don't they?
It's, yeah, like if it's like a paper wasp kind of thing, or like even like a wasp nest, or even like any other like bug's nest, it's mostly just like spit up, regurgitated mud.
Yeah, so I was thinking like maybe that the worker bugs, because they break down bodies, etc., that they actually could produce some sort of secretion that makes the dirt harder. And in the script, they were talking about how the worker bugs create barriers, etc.
Okay.
It's like they have their own tower defense game. So they create these walls, and they're the ones that actually made these walls, and they're not going to be super thick, but just enough to be defensive towards elements, etc.
Yeah.
So maybe I just don't think it's a mountain. I think it is kind of like a termite hill type thing.
No, I mean the first one where they glanced off the very top and then bounced, and then the other one, that one probably was a mountain. The one that they actually hit in and go into is definitely a mound.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it was a mountain, there wouldn't be a hole there. There would just be a piling, rubble of escape pod and a splat of Carmen and Zander.
Yep. Exactly.
Because they go straight in. I don't even think they go in at like any kind of angle. They just straight into the wall.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it's good because they're alive, but lucky because it's not a solid wall.
Yeah, that's why that's why I'm going with my theory, because it wouldn't make sense if they broke through a mountain.
No, you're definitely right.
Yeah, but I also, if this was a hollowed out mountain, it shouldn't. The minute they made impact, this thing should have came down like a house of cards.
Yeah. No, they definitely have like some kind of it definitely has some kind of support in there as well too. Even the wall itself looked relatively thin.
Yeah. Because it looks like it's maybe at best 5 to 6 feet deep.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in theory, is thick, but depending, or in the case of the top of a mountain, that's not very thick.
No, yeah, you're right.
I would guess maybe at most 10 feet, because it does look kind of, the opening, like you can actually see a little bit. I don't know. But I don't have my hand to it. We don't really have a lot of comparison other than this ship, and we don't even really know how big of a ship it is.
Yeah, well, it's around, I want to say, about 3 meters long. Maybe a bit longer, maybe 4, but it's a big enough ship. As I said, I'm pretty sure it's built to withstand punishment, as it is possibly going to go through debris field / re-entry / landing on a planet.
Yeah, I guess that's true, because if you're using this type of ship to escape anything that the main ship is for some reason going to blow up, it's got to be strong, because it's already at a point of being used to escape danger. And I think the supplies for creating a smaller ship of this defensive capability is a little bit better than creating or more efficient than creating one giant ship. Which would, because the structure of it's going to be a little bit more different if you're creating a really big ship with huge defensive purpose. That's why they just have the shields and all that.
Yeah.
So it'd be more like a Borg sphere than it would be the Enterprise type thing.
I suppose. Well, I mean, don't get me started on that, because that'll be a nice little tangent if you really want to go down there.
Well, I'm just saying, if you make the Enterprise as dense and defensive capable as a Borg sphere, it's going to be bigger than what it actually was. It's going to have to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, like maybe the
Borg
Well,
sphere had a bunch of redundancies as well too.
True, but when the Enterprise is at dock, like on Earth, like that main part, the saucer part, would just kind of topple over, because it would eventually be way too heavy once it reaches Earth atmosphere or Earth gravitational pull.
Yeah, have you seen Into Darkness? It goes down.
I know, I have seen that, but I'm just saying, when you enter Earth's atmosphere and you start to fall under the gravity pull of Earth, having it that defensively heavy is going to be a problem.
Yeah,
unless,
well, I mean, that's why you have structural integrity fields and whatnot to keep everything together.
I haven't thought about an integrity field. Would you mean like a force field, except it just keeps it from being succumbed to that much gravity, etc.?
that's pretty much the idea of it. Like, so anytime like they say structural integrity is down to like some odd percent, they're like on the verge of the ship tearing itself apart kind of thing. It's more like of a stability bubble to keep everything around because, gosh, here we go. Okay. Uh, but so the way they go into warp and everything, the way the ships are made, is actually streamlined directly to make the best warp bubble available to travel into warp, basically. So the saucer, the nacelles, and everything. They also have a structural integrity field that goes around the ship as well to pretty much protect it. Besides that bubble as well to keep everything contained. So say if like there's also like a deflector dish that also deflects things as well too. So say if like there's micro meteorites or anything like that in the way, if they're going through that at warp speed, it's gonna like go through them unless they have the deflector array and also a structural integrity field as well too.
I guess
so. They have multiple things to keep them upright, and the Borg cube, the sphere, and everything like that probably doesn't, just because you can tear off like a good chunk of it and it still function, just because the Borg are just different in pretty much every single way. You know, they don't give a crap about lives or anything like that. It's just the collective, and if it's still working, it's still working.
Well, I just thought of something that might also make it different than what occurred with Star Trek. Starship Troopers are generally going to have materials that are only made on Earth, whereas Star Trek, they can actually get materials from a planet with higher Earth gravity, so the materials could be more dense and stronger.
Yeah.
So that I think that might be something of why you cannot create a ship like in Star Trek in the Starship Trooper universe, aka the Enterprise, because it structurally would not be able to hold itself, because Star Trek does have far beyond more scientific capabilities than Troopers do.
Oh, definitely. They definitely do. My theory for it was that they, again, didn't have an idea of what the plasma would actually do to their ships. And once they figured it out, oh, well, you know, maybe the same material that is used for the cruisers and for the corvettes and everything are the same material made for the escape pods. But because the escape pods are so small, they don't have to worry about getting hit with a giant plasma bolt or anything like that. They can just maneuver around it. They're still strong, but not plasma bolt strong.
Okay.
I mean, I think that would be the kind of same thing with the last couple minutes, where it survived the explosions. It survived, you know, getting hit by a couple things in that trombone and everything. So,
all right.
Plasma bolts are pretty strong, man. They just cut through stuff.
Well, I'm assuming so, because they are high intensity heat
And energy, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they get back to the movie a little bit instead of doing our stupid Star Trek tangent, because you started this, man. Thank you.
I know, but I keep getting caught up. Like, every time we talk about, like, any time with ships, I always compare it to other things. So,
man, if you want to get into it, we can do we can do our own league of, you know, starships or anything, whatever the heck that ranking was that you guys did at San Diego Comic-Con. We can do that.
It's called Starship Smackdown. Thank you very much. But it's other people that actually run that. I think they're still around because their website is still up. And if people are not aware of what Starship Smackdown is, they do have a Facebook page, I just found out. And the whole thing is you come up with a bunch of different starships, and it goes into kind of like a
bracket system, isn't it?
A tournament bracket system, but all the ships are randomized. So you cannot put in like the Borg sphere and, for example, something that we actually use, the carousel from Explorers. Do you remember that movie?
I of course I do, and of course that's going to win because it has a force field around it. It can go through anything.
Well, so the tournament bracket that we were on, the Explorers were going against the mothership of Independence Day.
Yeah.
So we were talking about the fact that the Explorers have an intense force field or intense defensive capability with no offense. Theoretically.
Yes.
You have to move it and then use the shield to try and do the damage. And then they were also talking about the mothership from Independence Day, that it also has incredible defensive capability because a nuke did not go through the shield.
Mm.
But then it also has an incredible, intense offensive weapon. Would that be able to destroy the Explorer's ship? And so we were in a debate, and they opened it up to the floor, and then I said that a crop duster destroyed the mothership, and then so the Explorer ship moved over.
Well, I mean, those were the smaller 15-mile ships that did, but the mothership was destroyed by a nuke fired off by Will Smith and.
Well, it just meant that the defensive flaw is incredibly huge.
Oh yeah.
And since it takes a lot of time for it to actually charge for a shot, it gives the Explorers more than enough time to actually do the damage it needs.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into the logistics of the Independence Day aliens spaceship and what their flaws were, I mean, yeah, man, they have all this time to charge up their weapon, and also apparently their bottom part of the ship where the weapon is not shielded at all. Yeah. So they can just, go and fire it. Or what? Actually, you know what? No.
No, it is
shielded because the virus happened. Yeah, I forgot.
Well, not only that, when they're going over the building right before they blast all those people that they're like welcoming the aliens.
Yeah,
that thing opens up like a garbage disposal thing. Opens up, then exposes the light. So it still has some defensive capability, but it still needs to power up. But if that thing has to be covered, then for some reason there is no force field beam on it, or force field shield.
Yeah,
in some way, maybe it's weaker, but it's like it doesn't have full insulation in such a way. Like if they're going through space, that does need to be covered, or else maybe people get sucked out. So it's not the best.
I'm thinking the same thing with again Star Trek and their transporters. You can't transport anyone while the shields are up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't really do anything offensively. Well, they can do things offensively with the shields up, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Starship Troopers. Let's get back to that.
All right. So where are we at in the movie? Oh, yeah. We're 7 seconds in.
No, we're a little farther now. They landed. Carmen looks a little bit knocked out, but Zander's still up. They hit pretty hard.
Yeah, if anything, she probably has a minor concussion at this point.
Good.
And yeah, well, I'm gonna not say good, just because I am a recipient of minor concussions with an S, and it's not fun. It's not something I wish upon anybody. But I do recognize the symptoms, and she probably has a very minor concussion, possibly just a regular, not trauma, but just blunt force onto the back of her head, probably on landing.
Yeah. Well,
or she's just faking it.
She's probably faking it to make Zander feel better.
Yeah, screw her, right? Us with real head concussions are something to worry about, because that stuff sucks.
No, it really does. I mean, Daniel Bryan had his whole entire thing with that as well,
and he's
too.
Coming back.
Yeah, but he got so many doctors to sign off on him, but he couldn't convince the WWE doctors until just recently.
Well, because the research on concussions is a little bit, in a way, they're actually caring now than they used to.
Thank goodness.
So,
yeah, no.
Right now we're in this stage where there's a lot of overprotection or overcompensation, just because you're not quite sure how it affects a body in the long term. So I understand.
Kind of do in one or two situations, and we won't speak about it.
It's person to person.
Exactly.
I guarantee you that there's people that could get lots of concussions and make it through.
And then you got someone else like Chris Benoit and everything, who kills his family.
Yeah. But he's also gone through almost hundreds of concussions. So
yeah, but that was kind of unprotected. They didn't really care, and
he didn't care either. That was the thing. Yeah. It was just I'm a little shook up. That was kind of the thing about it. But nowadays it's okay, we got to make sure that we got to watch you for a long period of time, make sure nothing happens. But since Daniel Bryan also had neck injuries, it kind of culminated on all of it, because if your neck gets too stiff, it's a little bit harder for your skull to move with any impact, and your brain just sloshes around in there.
AKA, just look at Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
He looks stiff as hell. I mean, he looks like he's in a Batman cowl from 1989.
Yeah. But if actually anybody wants to find out what actually causes a concussion and how it's done, there was an incredible Mythbusters episode where they put Jello in a mold of a brain in somebody's head, and like obviously a fake head, but you can actually see how a concussion actually occurs, and it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. I mean, just because you have that whole entire like liquid surrounding your brain inside your skull, and that happens when your brain actually impacts your skull.
Yeah,
pretty hard.
So yeah, if Carmen's faking a concussion, then screw her, because it is serious business. And
it really is.
And I'm gonna assume that she's faking at this point.
But well, then she gets up and she's perfectly fine. She's not dizzy or anything. She's not trying to gain her feet or everything. She goes back. Well, we don't see her really getting out too much, but we see Zander taking out his, his carbine version of the Merida, handing it to Carmen as well too, and then they get on the comms.
They're not both on carbines, are they?
Yes, they're both on carbines. Well, I mean, they're smaller. They have smaller weapons that fit into the escape pod, so they are carbines.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I was wondering. It'd be weird if you put in two separate rifles into it, just because like wait, what if an officer gets in here? We got to put in officers. They just should have a uniform one that fits in the trunk, and it's probably just a. I wonder if it is a carbine, because maybe there's some made for this, because they're not made for people.
Yes, I'm actually at the 59 seconds, because I've been going through the movie or through the minute, constantly. And right at the very end of the minute, which we'll talk about again, Zander's holding both the Meritas akimbo style.
Hell yeah.
And and they both are carbines.
Okay, yeah, I see it. Right at 57, he's standing there.
It does make sense, though. I mean, if you're going to have a smaller variant, if you're going to have a variant of the rifle in a compact, let's say like a rescue pack or some kind of survival pack, it's good to have the smaller variant than it is going to have the larger variant anyway. I mean, the carbine is still good for medium to short range than it is, to have the regular Merida for medium to long range as well, too.
Yeah.
Thing still fires. It still shoots bullets. So
yeah, but yeah, I guess that would be good also to have a small one, just to make sure it doesn't, because it is an escape pod. It's going to possibly suffer structural damage. That's good to not have a weapon that's cramped in there, because then that would bend the barrel.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, she gets on the comms because she hears someone talking, and it's Johnny.
Yep, and they're doing a little bit of communication, but she's kind of briefing him on their current status.
She's like, Johnny, is that you? He's like, yeah, it's me. What's up? He doesn't say it like that, but
yeah. But so she tells him that the situation is extremely hostile, and there's a ton of warriors just moving in on basically intruders on their domicile.
Yeah, she actually does say that we're in the middle of Bug City, about 60 meters down, or I'm sorry, 30 meters down, which is about 60 feet. Is it? No. 20 meters down, they said, right?
Yes, 20 meters.
So that's 60 feet, yeah. Because a meter is 3 feet.
Correct.
About. A little under 3 feet.
Yeah. A yard is 3 feet.
Yes, exactly.
What? Metric system just makes more sense.
It makes a ton more sense, because how many, 12 inches for a foot, how many feet to a mile? What is it, 5,216 when it's 1,000, meters per kilometer? It's better.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't like the liter system, because, I mean, that's just weird. Just give me gallons, man.
Yeah, but all of a sudden I'm thinking of Super Troopers. But anyways,
I don't want a liter of cola. I want a gallon of cola.
But I've always, I grew up in the Philippines, so there is a metric system. And coming over here, it was just weird. Because before we could eyeball, it's like, oh, that's probably half a kilo right there. They're like, what the hell is a kilo? And it's just like, oh, god damn it. Now I need to know what this one is. So it's a pound. What's a pound look like? It was so confusing.
I don't want a pound of cola. God.
Medic!
Yeah, because for us, we kind of estimated like how much a particular fruit already weighed. So you're like, oh, give me 12 of that, and it's probably going to be 3/4 kilo. Okay, yeah, it is. Cool. So, oh my god.
Metric is far better.
It was one of the frustrating things to learn was American measurement. We'll say that.
And but then again, measurement up to a meter, I still use, like, if it's below a meter, I still use imperial, just because, foot is easier, 12 inches is easier than centimeters, millimeters, all that other junk. So no, thank you.
That's not what she said. Bah.
I know.
What a variant. Coming at you with all angles.
Hot take.
So, anyways, now that we're kind of at the end of this minute, I do want to go over real quick on this, the script version.
Go for it.
So, Zander at this point, he's supposed to have kind of a mashup of, what's it called? Different armor. Because there is a hidden minute in the script that just never made it to production, and it kind of made no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that Hercules Viking. Oh, that's what it actually was called, I think. I think it was called the Hercules, when it's bigger than the Vikings. That's the thing that crashed onto all the other Vikings and some personnel. Zander is supposed to have a ill-fashioned jumpsuit from a bunch of other jumpsuits or marauders. So he has like a jump boot here, armor here, etc. They get attacked by a bunch of bugs. They make it through, and then they find out the Raj Young is burning up. So that kind of gives that time frame between when the ship blows up and what happens on Earth. It's not just like, oh, we landed, here we are. Oh, and the Roger Young is going down right now. No, there's that gap because they get into a fight. The Roger Young is exploding. They're trying to run out. They get into a fight, and now Zander has a mishmash of all this armor.
Oh, okay.
So they crash through the what's called the Bug City tunnels, and it's Deledier and Carmen. Deledier is still hurt, but she grabs some Ritas as well and hands one to Carmen. Carmen still gets on a call with Johnny. That still happens the same exact way. She says the present location 42 degrees south by 176 east. Situation extremely hostile, but instead of being able to shoot the Marita at the bugs, Carmen is about to off herself.
Whoa.
Yeah. So she puts the barrel of the Marita in her mouth, and before she can pull the trigger, because they kind of have an idea of what's going on, there is a brain bug. Yeah. And they are privy to a lot of personal information, Deledier and Carmen. So she's about to off herself.
Jesus.
And a claw cuts off her trigger finger.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And then that's when they hear the screams. Because in the... Is it right into the next minute or just at the end of this minute where they hear the screams?
So... No, that right now, like at the very end of this minute, they're still firing, and they start firing into the crowd.
All right, so that's when they hear the scream. Is a claw cuts off her finger.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah. So, but also on a weird tip, the size of the Marina, it'd be very hard to put your finger on the trigger and put the barrel in your mouth with the size of this rifle.
Have you seen Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah, but it'd be weird if you kind of push down with your finger like as if you're swatting a bug instead of using the thumb.
I suppose, but I mean, the M14 is a little short, a little longer than, the Ruger right here as well too, and the Marita. So I mean, it is possible. It's just uncomfortable, but I mean, if you're gonna off yourself, the best way to do it would be that.
Yeah, but did he use his thumb or does he use his trigger finger?
I think he uses his thumb.
See, that's what I mean. Since we're also only basing it on the description that's written out, not necessarily like what happened. So it'd be weird that she has her trigger finger there. Okay, and I did just watch a segment of Private Pile's death scene. He does use his thumb.
Okay.
Yeah. Man, Vincent D'Onofrio is like one of the best actors we have this generation. That's so underrated.
Right?
Yeah. He's so amazing. But yeah. So I'm just saying the way it's written, obviously it's not something that's conveyed on screen. Maybe they didn't want to show it. Like attempted suicide. Like maybe that's already pushing the envelope as it is with the rating. And maybe it's one of those that Verhoeven's like, I like it when people kill other people. I don't like it when people kill themselves.
I don't know, man. I mean, he's pretty into a lot of stuff.
Well,
I don't think it was him that was, having the hang-ups about it.
Well, here's the thing, though. No, maybe it's like not something he wants to portray. Like maybe he feels that kind of being a barrier of being too dark. Mm-hmm. Because there's such a thing as there's evil in the world. That's fine, and that's something you can cope with, especially when you're in war. But when there's that mental thing of ending it on your own terms, like maybe he sees that it's a little bit darker of a subject to get into because there's a whole psychology behind it.
Oh, okay.
So maybe because it's harder for him to explain that, it's easier to explain people can be evil. Maybe, okay. But that's my theory. Anyways, the way it's written just doesn't make sense because that Marita is pretty beefy.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's my rant.
Oh, awesome, man. I mean, that's going to be pretty much the end of the minute. Do you have anything else besides that you want to say anything about?
If you guys have been following me on Instagram especially, I've been playing Far Cry 5, and it is incredibly fun. You can follow that on JDASHD26. It's the same as my Twitch. And you can also follow my Twitter at OMG It's Johann. Decided to throw that in right now while it was there.
Yeah, why not? I mean, let's do the plugs then. And you guys can find me at pretty much anywhere at AltMatt online, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, what have you. I'm going to be playing D&D with John Robert and Crystal Beth from Fifth Element pretty soon this coming up week on Tuesday. So the day after this episode's drop, we're going to be playing that on Unlimited Live. So come and watch that. It's super fun. I play a crazy warlock dude who kind of believes he's kind of a god now, but he's just a bit crazy.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. Oh, he got baked out of his mind doing, magic mushrooms, literal magic mushrooms from an alchemist, and decided to go to a in-game version of Burning Man, and then just was doing fire dancing, levitating, and everything, and now he believes he's a fire god.
That's kind of awesome. That kind of reminds me of what is this character's name? Sam Rockwell in Hitchhiker's Guide.
Weaselpop, I believe.
Or is it Zaphod?
Zaphod, yeah.
Zaphod, yeah.
Zaphod Weaselpop.
Where he's like so out of his mind and he kind of is godlike. Yeah. I'm kidnapping myself.
Woo! That's a great portrayal of that character.
Yeah, you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Come on now.
I'm kidnapping myself. Come on, everybody.
I'm the president of the universe. How you doing?
I love that movie so much.
We need to watch that pretty soon, both of us.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, guys, you can also follow the show itself at The Roughneck Min on Twitter, MIN. Guys can also go to our Facebook group, The Roughneck Minute Billet, to continue the conversation and talk about Roughnecks and Starship Troopers and how freaking out of your mind you got when you went to Burning Man, if you did. I did.
Nah, I haven't.
You guys can also go to our website at theroughneckminute.podbean.com for any past episodes or show notes. And please also subscribe, rate, and review us on any of your podcatchers of choice. We are on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, anything like that. Once again, guys, thank you so much for listening to us. I've been one of your hosts, Matthew.
And I've been your other host, Johann.
And we will see you on the bounce, troopers.